Hey, welcome back. Remember to drop a like to feed this fluffy like eating chinchilla. r/AskReddit. What morbid fact do you know? NSFW. If bodies are kept in coffins that are sealed tight enough, such as the in-wall type of memorial, sometimes enough gases can build up that the body basically explodes and can spill out onto the ground, going out with a bang. If you electrocute someone while they are submerged in water, it won't leave burn marks. In Formula 1, safety belts were not mandatory until 1972. Before then, drivers believed it better to be ejected in a crash and either die instantly from a broken neck or suffer many broken bones. The alternative, they thought, was to be trapped and essentially cremated alive should the gas tanks ignite. I clicked a video of a fiery crash I saw on YouTube from the late 80s, I believe. Watched the crash and car ignite, waited for the man to emerge, waited some more, and some more. Then an opponent ran up to the car only to be held back by the fire crew who were essentially letting the man burn. Took a while before I realized what I watched. It was the crash of Roger Williamson in 1973. A professor at my lecture today said that deer will lay on decaying corpses because they produce heat in the deer like that. Basically, deer treat corpses as their personal sauna. Bambi just chilling. A body can swell to 3 times its normal size, especially if the person passes away in a bathtub. I will never forget the time when I was a teenager, surfing rotten.com as we all did and see an image of a man who died in a bath. He had a thing that kept the bath water warm, so by the time he was found, he had turned into a human stew. I still can't eat stew. Before you die, your last words could be, "I don't feel so good." I was a paramedic for 15 years and heard dozens of people's final words. The phrase I heard most often, possibly from half to 3/4 of them, were some form of, "I don't feel so good." I've also heard, "Wait, something's wrong. Something's happening. I don't feel right. Wait, something's wrong. It's happening. Oh no, oh no." People feel the blood leaving their brain, I think. Must be like a rush. A family friend passed away from a massive brain bleed. She was just sitting having dinner and stopped, said, "There's something happening in my head," and passed out. Half of me is vaguely traumatized after hearing the story. Half of me sort of wants to know what she felt just then, since it wasn't, "My head hurts," or similar. I had a similar thing happen when I was closest to dying I've ever been. Was at home sick because I hadn't been feeling well and I was laying down. Suddenly felt an impending sense of doom and went to the bathroom and watched the blood drain from my face. Called my dad to tell him I loved him because I was sure I was right about to die. He called me an idiot and told me to call 911. Turns out though I might have been close to dying. My spleen had burst and in a follow-up a radiologist told me I was lucky to be alive as I could have bled out in minutes. Pretty sure what saved me was I hunched over on the toilet like I do when I get Crohn's pains. I know this cinched the flow because I remained hunched over like that until 6 hours later when the hospital finally admitted me from the waiting room and I laid out flat and my abdomen immediately started filling with blood to the point where dilated a super strong version of morphine wasn't even touching it. I was in intense pain and by that point screaming. Would not recommend. You can tell someone is dead by trying to move their jaw. It's one of the first body parts to show signs of rigidity. This reminds me of Batman the animated series, where after the Joker would kill someone with his poisonous gas they would all have a smile on their face, and now makes sense as to why they would. Morbidly obese people need to be cremated at a lower temperature so the fat doesn't quickly liquefy and start pouring out of the people oven. Can confirm. I used to work at a funeral home. I know a guy who had to kitty litter a few gallons of man grease off the crematory floor. If you want to dump a body, it can take up to 2-4 weeks to fully decompose if out in the open, but if you bury it in a casket it can take up to 44 years. Judith Barcy was the young actress who voiced Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven and Ducky in The Land Before Time. She was murdered at the age of 10 by her abusive father, who also killed her mother at the same time. Judith's gravestone displays Ducky's catchphrase, "Yep, yep, yep." What in the actual fuck? As I recall when I first read about this, the father had some adequacy issues as a result of his 10-year-old making more money than he was. He also had a long history of violent outbursts and mental health issues. Judith's mother went to the police many times seeking protection, at one stage warning the police that her ex-husband was going to do something very dangerous to them both. The entire story is soul-crushing. Edit guys, I got some of the details wrong. It's been many asterisk years since first reading about this. They never got divorced. She was too afraid he would snap if he left her. Full story is on Wikipedia. My account of it is semi-correct but fogged by bad memory details, mostly correct but certain bits and bobs wrong. It's all just as devastating if not worse than I wrote. Can't make it to the end of the wiki page. The image of her face and the yep just crucifies me. In the Middle Ages, you could be boiled in a pot of lead for certain crimes. What crimes they were I have forgotten, but it certainly was a thing. There was a law in ancient Rome or Greece, I don't exactly remember, where if a woman killed the heir she would be forced to drink molten iron. What happened if a guy killed the heir? If he was caught murdered in public? You can die from pooping too hard, so I see a lot of people mentioning Elvis. Keep in mind, yes, this was ultimately the reason why Elvis died, but it was also in large part due to his terrible eating habits. He also had an almost religious love of cheeseburgers. This contributed heavily to his death. TFW, you check after you wipe and find a lung in the bowl of the toilet. The hole. If your erection lasts more than 4 hours, receive immediate medical or whatever is the reason why the Brazilian wandering spider located in the Amazon is so dangerous. Its bite is supposed to make you have an erection for a long time, and it's pretty hard to find medical services when you're in the Amazon. What happens with boners is that blood fills up the penis and mostly stays there until the boner is gone. If it stays longer than 4 hours, the blood is deprived of oxygen. It can turn into a jelly-like substance with lots of clotting, so leaving it untreated could clog you up as the blood flows back. By the time you get to a doctor, they have 2 options. One is get a 60 milliliters syringe with a needle and suck out the blood that's the consistency of toothpaste, while also flushing it with salt water, also with syringe and needle, when those clots stop the needle. The second option, which is usually saved for last, is to vertically insert a small blade inside the meatus/slit in the head and sharply twist it by 90 degrees. Then just let it drain. Yeah, that's gonna be a big no for me, dog. Just go ahead and shoot me. There is a phenomenon in the Philippines of people being murdered after singing My Way by Frank Sinatra in karaoke bars. Really? Like people kill them for singing it or just coincidence? People get super into karaoke in the Philippines, and they also have kind of a macho culture, so the song really resonates with assholes who will claim the song for themselves and become violent if someone sings their song. I think it can also be a way of showing up another person. If you sing it better than they do, they will be incredibly insulted. It starts a bar fight and sometimes someone will get stabbed. After the Pulse nightclub shooting, when the cops were investigating, you'd think it was pretty quiet in there. It was actually a cacophony of ringing cell phones. So many friends and loved ones calling people they knew were there, hoping they'll answer the phone and say they're okay. A similar thing happened during 9/11. Firefighters have a PAS device, personal alert safety system, that is paired with their breathing apparatus, and it rings when they're incapacitated to alert for help. After the towers fell, you could hear many of these devices chirping among the debris. There is a parasite called dracunculiasis, or more commonly, guinea worm, that can enter your leg through drinking infected water. You won't notice anything until 1 year later, when a small portion breaks the skin to release larvae. At this point, it's a meter long. A meter long. And it has to be extracted centimeter by disgusting centimeter. NTDs are the stuff of nightmares. As a striker saw cuts through the skull cap during an autopsy, the smell created is exactly like Fritos. Do you know this personally? And why is that? Yes. I have performed 34 autopsies. The youngest inmate to have died at Kingston Pen, Canada's first prison, was 9 years old. He died of tuberculosis, and his crime was larceny in 1857. Edit. I'm a tour guide at this site, and I've got plenty more morbid facts like that. Feel free to PM with questions. The youngest female inmate to die at KP was 14, also of tuberculosis, and her crime was not listed. This was 1867. We had another 13-year-old boy who died of tetanus, and his crime was also larceny in 1857. On Mount Everest, you have the Rainbow Valley, the last zone to climb to reach the peak. Which sounds cute, but it's really the colorful jackets of dead climbers who are frozen in time against the white harsh snow. Also, when close to the peak, the oxygen levels are so low that the body is starting to die. You only have a few minutes to reach the top. That selfie at the top is worth dying for, though. I assume. An adult human body impacting on concrete does not sound organic or wet at all. It reminded me more of a car accident than anything else. Source: last week someone committed suicide by jumping off of the building I live in. I heard the impact and saw the body when I walked out onto my terrace to see what was going on. Second morbid fact, from the same source: the human brain looks far more white and pink when it gets ejected from the skull. I always thought a live brain would be red from the blood in it, but I was wrong. Edit. Words. The dolphin from the television show Flipper committed suicide. You have to understand, dolphins and whales are not air breathers like we are. Every breath they take is a conscious effort. They can end their life whenever. She swam into my arms and looked me right in the eye, took a breath and didn't take another one. I let her go and she sank straight down on her belly to the bottom of the tank. When you're aware of just how dangerous escalators are, it's pretty surprising that they exist. If you get caught in one, you just die. It sucks you in. Meanwhile, elevators are the safest way of any mechanical travel. I'm almost 35 and I worry more now about being jibed by an escalator than ever before. Like, what if it catches my shoelace? I have a scar on my leg from an escalator in the Chicago airport. It sliced my leg all the way to the muscle. I didn't feel it happen, just noticed when the blood was running down my leg. Did it stop the escalator? Nope. Escalators are the devil. Thanks for watching. Remember, every like puts Mario Chinchilla closer to finding his gold coins.